All right, let me introduce the Coleman Griffith Lecture. Sean McCann is a senior sports psychologist for the United States Olympic Committee, having worked for the USOC for 25 years. He has traveled with the last 12 Olympic teams as a sports psychologist during the Games. In his work for the USOC, he works directly with teams and coaches, from mental skills seminars and workshops about Olympic pressure to individual sessions with athletes. Sean earned an undergraduate degree in psychology from Brown University, a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Hawaii, and an internship and postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Washington. He is a licensed psychologist in Colorado. Please join me in welcoming Sean McCann as our Coleman Griffith Lecture.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. This is a gigantic honor, as you might imagine, and it's a career highlight for me. So I'm not somebody that's known for starting stuff early, but I got started early on this. You know, because how often do you have an hour to talk to your colleagues about, you know, your journey in sports psychology? And I thought I was set until I got this letter recently from AASP. Where they told me what the Coleman Griffith was and wasn't. It's designed to talk about the past, link it to the present, and give a vision for the future. Okay, I'm okay with that. It's hard to pull off in an hour, but I'll do it. It's not meant to be a Lifetime Achievement Award or a review of that person's journey in the field. That's news to me because I've seen that before. So you know, and this year now it's going to be 30 minutes long. Okay, great. I'm going to have to cut out a lot of stuff. Okay, there's some stuff I couldn't cut out. Sorry, Tracy. You know, there's just so many amazing stories of my experiences in my youth and my sporting experiences. The stories are so rich. I mean, just the chariot racing and the bear wrestling stuff is just amazing. I mean, people, when they find out, Sean, you wrestled bears? Oh my God, you wrestled. What's it like to wrestle a bear? You know? And what I always say is, you know, when you wrestle a bear, it's never about the bear. It's about you. It's about whoop. Yeah. You gotta whoop that bear. You gotta whoop that bear's ass. That's how you wrestle a bear. So, if this was about my journey, you'd hear gems like that for the next 30 minutes. But now, no, new rules, okay. It's Coleman Griffith, past, present, future. Okay, let's get to that. If you've ever been to Coleman Griffith lecture before, you've seen this picture of Coleman Griffith. I think it's the only one we have. But he was, you know, he looks like an academic, you know, a handsome guy, nice full head of hair, I noticed. He has that unfortunate 1930s mustache that seemed to be in vogue then with a few people. But he, I don't know what it was. It doesn't make any sense. Why stop there? I don't know. But anyway, the Cubs, we don't talk about the Cubs, and this is, to me, is really an amazing, amazing thing, that this guy went into a professional baseball team in the 30s and pulled this stuff off. And so I think we need to talk about that. I love talking about consulting. I love hearing about consulting. I love hearing consulting horror stories, success stories, talking to colleagues about what went right and what went wrong. And so I started reading about this time with the Cubs, and it was amazing, amazing story. And the thing that really struck me is how relevant it is for today. And I thought actually that says something about our field and is worth talking about. Sources for this and recommendations. If you're interested in Coleman Griffith, I read everything I could find about Coleman Griffith. Two really great sources by this guy, Christopher Green, a professor at York University in history of psychology. In 2003, he wrote one called Psychology Strikes Out in History of Psychology. And in the APA Monitor in 2012, he wrote a shorter one, America's First Sports Psychologist. He's a really good writer. It's funny, readable, and and he had a ton of source material from the family, from the Griffith family. So it was really, really good stuff. I disagree with the title, Psychology Strikes Out, because at the end of this consultation, he was just asked back. And anyone who's ever actually been paid for doing consulting knows getting asked back, you didn't strike out. You know, that's really important to be asked back and to get paid. So I know a lot of you know a lot about Coleman Griffith already, but for those who don't, pretty amazing guy. He was a college baseball player, went to University of Illinois, got a PhD, right away got a job there. And right away, as he got a job, he just started inventing sports psychology. He said, I'm going to make a class on psychology and the athlete. And he started writing, doing research, and did such a good job of this, engaged lots of the athletes of the university, that the AD got excited about it. Says, well, let's create a lab, where we can, research this stuff and maybe help the football team do a little bit better. And for the next 7 years, he did a ton of work out of the lab, bought all kinds of equipment, reaction time, everything else. And the Great Depression hit, the funding for the lab was cut, but he still did more of this work. And 37, following a rough season for the Chicago Cubs, the owner of the Cubs actually reached out to Wrigley, or to Griffith, and said, hey, could you come out with us to spring training and work with our team? And he did. So I'm going to be whizzing through this because I only have 30 minutes. I'm not trying to, I'm not sore about it, Tracy, but it's just true. So I'm talking fast partly because I'm excited. I'm turning my nervousness into excitement, and so I'm super, super excited. So anyway, I guess a couple key points I want to make about this consultation before we dive into the details. One is he was hired by Wrigley, the owner, and he clearly saw Wrigley as his client. The job was to work for Wrigley, which is a choice, and we'll talk about those kinds of choices. And the other thing, the other big landmark on this is that the manager for the team was fired halfway through the season and replaced. Okay. I'm a big believer if you don't understand the context you're working in, if you don't understand what shapes and motivates the people you're working with, you're doomed as a consultant. And so there's 3 key players I want to go into a little bit more detail about: P.K. Wrigley and the 2 managers, Charlie Grimm and Gabby Hartnett. Now, who is P.K. Wrigley? Amazing character. On his dad's deathbed, William Wrigley, who loved to be a baseball owner, loved the Cubs, he said, son, don't ever sell the Cubs. So he didn't sell the Cubs, but he was pretty disengaged. They were in the World Series a number of times. He didn't even go. And he was a very different guy than his dad. He was shy, introverted, really avoided crowds, greatly hated giving speeches. But he loved machines, innovation, automation, science. He was kind of a genius in business. He actually he commissioned a study to prove that chewing gum relaxes you, and convinced the Army from that study that they should include a pack of gum in every meal that a GI had during World War II. And so what did he do? He created millions of addicted soldiers after the war, and also they spread the gum all around Europe. So their people became addicted to gum, and Wrigley just became this giant company. He also, during the war, invented the All-American Professional Girls Baseball League, and created the phrase, there's no crying in baseball. Or actually, the movie did, but anyway, it was his thing. So that's just a very little bit about P.K. Wrigley. There's books written about him worth reading. Charlie Grimm, his nickname was Jolly Charlie. He was a first baseman from 25 to 32. Then he became a player manager in 32. And he kept doing that role until 36 when he retired as a player and became a manager. And he was known, got his nickname Jolly Charlie because he was just so gregarious, outgoing. He played the banjo and sang in the clubhouse, all that sort of stuff. But after he stopped playing, his mood turned. He kind of got burnt out. He wasn't motivated. And his behavior was so different that the press was actually told that he was suffering from some physical ailment, and that's why his mood was as it was. And he really was actively opposed to Griffith, which I'll talk about, but I wonder if there's some connection between his retirement as a player and the shift in his mood. The guy who came in to replace him, Gabby Hart, it was just an amazing baseball player. Iron Man, catcher, and great hitter. And he was a traditional, he was the guy that would scream at his teammates if they screwed up. Old school, old school. He won the pennant for the Cubs this year. On next to last day of the season, he hit this famous walk-off homer, the homer in the gloaming, because Wrigley didn't want to pay for stuff, so he'd never put lights in at Wrigley Field. And so it was getting dark, and in the last inning, he hit a walk-off home run to win the pennant and send him to the World Series, and it became a very famous, iconic moment for the Cubs. So what did Griffith do when he got to work with the Cubs and went to Catalina Island? And Wrigley's owned Catalina Island, so it was easy to set up a training place there. He brought high-speed video equipment, and I mean, you can imagine how the players would love seeing their swing, seeing their pitching style. They loved this stuff. It seemed to be the most popular thing he did. And Griffith wrote reports. He wrote report after report to send it to Wrigley. His goal was to try to make practice more useful for games. He looked at sort of the lackadaisical way they practiced back then and said, this has nothing to do with what happens in the game. Why are we doing this? And he sort of was a precursor for so many things that have happened in sport as sports gets more professional. He focused on analytics. They studied pitch counts. They studied what kind of pitches batters hit. And he wrote it all down and started sharing that information, which is stuff that hadn't happened before. He wanted to make a difference so much that he saw a massage therapist working on a pitcher's shoulder. He said, no, don't do that. He came in and just said, no, you need to do a little bit more of this. And he, perhaps because he was frustrated because of the lack of change and of behavior in the coaches, he felt that the managers weren't very smart people and just weren't going to change. And I'm not sure that attitude wasn't communicated. How did it start? How did it go? They started with the name calling, and I've been introduced to a team by a coach as the mind effer, and he didn't say effer, he said something else. Hey guys, here's your new mind effer. So my guess is head shrinker was not the strongest language used by Charlie Grimm. He actually told the players not to work with him, and he said, if they work with this guy and they get better, then I'll be blamed for them not being better before. So, okay. So he basically prevented his players from working with the sports psych guy. And so the players who did work with Griffith tried to hide it. And Grimm had made a big thing about how he had been doing massages and stuff like that, and yeah, remember what that psychologist said about the massage, so always joking, always tearing him down. And when Hartnett came in and replaced Grimm, he was respectful. He didn't go after Griffith, but he was an old school guy. First year as a manager, he was not going to take a lot of chances doing new stuff. So he pretty much did it the way it had always been done before. And one last point I just want to make, just as maybe to hedge his bets against if the sports psych stuff didn't work, P.K. Wrigley also hired an evil eye. He was this odd-looking guy who would sit in the stands and kind of go like this at opposing batters and try to screw them up while they were hitting. And I don't know that didn't result in the pennant, but anyway. So how did it go after the season? Well, the Cubs did win a pennant, so Griffith, the consultant, Hartnett, the manager, were both asked to come back. Griffith, probably for good reason, decided not to want to. He said, "I'll stay as an academic and do this a little bit on the side, part-time." Continued to sort of disparage the coaching staff of the Cubs, and the Cubs suffered for a long time, as Bob Harmison can attest over there. But it's all good now. Sorry except for last night. I know it's still fresh. Sorry for all you Cubs fans, but they did just win a World Series, and I'm a Red Sox fan. Yes, so I understand. You just need one. That's all you need. Just one. That's all you need. It's all good now. The thing that strikes me is all this stuff is stuff that we face today in sport. And I attended a thing a couple days ago that Angus Mumford was heading up on going over a pro sport summit. And the stuff that the folks working with pro sport teams were talking, it's a lot of the same kinds of stuff, same kinds of challenges. And some of the stuff used to be worse. When I started 30 years ago, first time at the USOC, there were it's a newer field and there was more active resistance, but a lot of this stuff that consultants face isn't this environment, it's internal, It's the stuff that we face internally as new consultants. So it's not about the bear or the Cubs. Everybody who's gotten a job knows getting a job's just the beginning, it doesn't mean that you're going to succeed. You got to figure out who you're working for. What actually are you supposed to be doing? Everybody's been frustrated with coaches who don't want to change, people who just don't get sports psychology. It's so hard to gain trust with coaches and athletes and credibility, and it's so, you want it so bad. You work so hard, but you got to hold back that impulse to try and prove yourself constantly. And because when you try to prove yourself constantly, you get in the way, people get pissed off, and you don't respect the way the sport runs. There's a temptation to do what you're good at. If you're good at individual consultation on the side, you like to do that. If you're good at giving talks, you want to do that, but you got to look at what the clients need. And you may not be competing with evil eyes today, but I bet you all of you have competed with people who say, I can do a 2-minute assessment that's going to predict who's going to be a good player, and I'll come in and turn your team around, because that happens every day. So what can Coleman Griffith teach us? You got to understand the dynamics. You got to slow down before you jump in. Figure out where you're going, what's about to happen. It's not about educating. It's not about educating. It's about changing behavior, often through education, but too many people stop at the education, feel like I did an amazing talk, pulled it together perfectly, they were in my hand, It's like, unless it changes their behavior at the plate or on the mound or wherever you're operating, you're not actually doing anything. Don't ignore the coach. Just because the owner hired you, the coach, you need to figure out how to make it work, even if the coach calls you a head shrinker and an egghead. Find a way to make it work. Whose job are you taking or threatening? And I know I've heard a lot of times from young consultants going, I'm not taking anybody's job. I don't understand why they're threatened. It's like, they've never done sports psychology. I'm just adding something that's going to help make their team. It's like, okay, how about the athletic trainer? Wasn't she the one who was hearing all the athletes' concerns and complaints before? Do you think you might be a threat coming in and this is your role now? You're always threatening somebody. Eggs or bacon, are you committed? Are you really, Griffith may have had good reasons for not wanting to go in all the way and stay as an academic, but in this world of pro sport consulting or elite sport consulting, nobody else is going in part-time. Everybody else is going in full-time. Are you ready for that? I was on the road 140 days last year away from home. That's success, but it's, do you really want that life? It's not for everybody. And stay in your lane. Don't be a massage therapist. Don't coach. Even if you think you know the sport, especially if you know the sport, don't coach. So some other bits of advice. This slide's a little bit small, but sorry about that. I was experimenting with Windows. Now has this new thing where it makes cooler slides. So sorry. But I guess one of the things I want to focus on here is one of the things says you don't always have to swing on the first pitch. You don't have to take the job. Just because it's the Boston Red Sox doesn't mean you have to do it. If it's going to fail, if you know it's going to fail, it's not good for your career to fail at something that high profile. Either figure out a way to change the context of it so you can succeed, or just don't do it. Or at least slow down before swinging at the pitch. Consulting, develop your skills, understand the science, keep getting better at what you do, but develop your own personal philosophy, but don't have a one methodology approach you take with every team. It's not plug and play. It's custom build every time, because people. Figure out where you're going to screw up. All of us, people who know me well know I have many ways I can screw up. And luckily, I've got some great colleagues that I've worked with over the years at the USOC in particular that I rely on heavily to give me feedback, to help me when I'm screwing up, when I'm flailing and I'm grasping at straws, to do less damage. Like, okay, what should I do? Have you ever seen this happen? What do you do? That's what AASP is for. Find those people who are in your cohort that are interested in the same things. Find those people. You need those people. You may think you don't need them. You need them. And as actually Angus said in this this pro sport thing the other day, says this is an unforgiving environment, so be ready. Don't get in there unless you're ready. Coleman Griffith did all this by himself. He essentially invented the scientist practitioner notion, you know, and he was based in science, and he knew stuff about being an athlete and what's actually possible in a sporting context. But how much better could he have done if he had had an organization? So I guess the question to ask is, how would a current young AASP CMPC, it's the first time I've said it, do better than Coleman? And are we really doing a good job of training our professionals to be professionals? Do we use data to drive the structure of our grad programs? Are our programs ideal? Is AASP helping young consultants avoid traps that everybody faces? You know, I gave a presidential address 9 years ago, and I had the little Venn diagram thing of the field, the organization of AASP, and the profession of sports psychology, and that all these things are enhanced by this intersection, that everybody that comes to AASP gets better understanding science, understands the organization gets better having professionals involved. Professionals are better when exposed to the people doing the basic research. But when I started a long time ago, the circles weren't balanced. The field was the thing. AASP was really overlapped with the field. The leaders in the field were the leaders of AASP, and professional stuff was just this little thing on the side. Overlapped, but it was just a little thing on the side. And I'm wondering, as things have evolved, how are we doing with the tensions that happen? Are we really comfortable with changing the size of these circles? I think the profession of sports psychology is going to keep on growing. And that's a challenge for the field, the people who have been the leaders of AASP. And AASP sometimes is sort of in the middle, trying to hold on to both sides, not to piss off the old academics who are saying, what is this that AASP is becoming? And the professionals go, give me something practical that I can use. And sometimes I think there's potential for the field to resent the fact that everything used to rotate around the field, and now it feels like the field is rotating around the profession, and it doesn't feel right. And I know a lot of people, including a lot of people I respect, my mentors at AASP, the founders of the organization, a lot of times feel like we've gotten too practice-oriented, that we're neglecting science. But I think we can do, and I'm not arguing with that, but I guess I'd like to see it as not science versus practice, but maybe science can actually serve practice and make practice better. And I think we can do more to help young professionals who want to do consulting. Let's look at the details. Have we really embraced the notion of a profession and trained for it? Are our grad programs true professional schools that train professionals to go out and do consulting? Now, a lot of what I'm talking about is consulting, okay? And I know not everybody wants to do it, and not everybody wants to do it the way I do it, or wants to be able to do everything. They might want to do a little slice of it. So bear with me. But do our students get enough experience in grad school so that they make their mistakes in grad school, and when they go out into the real world, they're ready to go? You can't do that without great supervision. And I know supervision takes a lot of time and effort, but that's the irreplaceable part of grad school in my perspective. Somebody who has more experience than you, supervises you, and tells you, don't do that, or don't do that again. And are our students ready for anything that they'll face? How many young professionals can handle counseling issues, clinical issues, and inspire confidence in coaches and athletes? That's a big ask. Again, not everybody wants to do all those things, but can students go to one place, just one school, and get a terminal degree, get sufficient training to be successful, and not go broke? have we really integrated, facilitated AASP and the field, this sort of, we say in our training model or certification model that we want people with combined knowledge bases together. But have we facilitated that? Or are we asking grad students to duct tape a master's here, a PhD here, and so rather than integrate it and just sort of like have two different spaces in the brain that they sort of cross over? Or why not have that all at one place? And has the resistance potentially in AASP to the profession actually sort of caused the profession to kind of go off in a way and be a little bit less science-oriented? So are we sort of like creating self-fulfilling prophecy, possibly? So just as a thought experiment, let's imagine somebody 10 years old, let's call her Coleman Griffith. She wants to be a sports psychologist 15 years from now when she's 25. So rather than just thinking about how this stuff affects me, my job, my choices, my legacy, my students, my program, what might be possible for Colleen 15 years from now? And again, not everybody wants to do a combined model, but one model could be a grad program that takes an undergraduate and gives all the coursework they need in sports science and exercise and counseling, clinical psychology, gives extensive supervised experience in counseling settings, sports settings, tons of supervision. At the end of this program, you can get a license in sport. You can call yourself a sports psychologist, not tie yourself into a knot trying to figure out what you can call yourself when the person from the Dallas Morning News calls up and wants to talk about your work with the Dallas Cowboys. And you go, well, I'm not really, I can't really say that I, all that stuff. Can AASP facilitate a path to internship? So you get a year-long internship before you graduate from school, and AASP helps place people. Can you, at the end of your programs, can AASP and your grad program facilitate professional jobs all over the country, all over the world? And can you have a program like this where the professors are really enthusiastic about producing great scientist practitioners, and that's what they want to do. That's what they really want to do. And can you do this in a time frame that's reasonable and that doesn't make people go broke? So, in conclusion, hey, I'm going to beat the 30-minute thing. Maybe I'll tell another bear story. So if AASP is serious about helping train great scientist practitioners, what do we need to do? I think we need to not resent the growth in the practice area. We need to be excited about it, facilitate it, and AASP needs to sort of help make it work. And we can't let practice drift away from the field, from the knowledge base, from the science. That'd be a gigantic mistake. I think we need to actively support grad programs, try to make them more excellent, try to make them more efficient, in terms of especially the ones that are focusing on producing consultants. I think we are ignoring the challenge faced by young professors in this field. This is a very hard field to be a professor in now. Grant money is ridiculously hard to find. Sometimes it's easier overseas. So we're losing, just as taking a very American bias perspective, we're losing a lot of people to other programs where they can earn more money doing research and things like that, get grants and have a successful academic career. And so I think AASP really needs to step in and start looking, what can AASP do to help young professors succeed, get grants, figure out new ways of doing research that, that are fundable. And I think one big last thing is we can support more research on what makes practice effective. Honestly, yeah, I know it's art and science, but we need to be more scientific. We need to understand what works, what doesn't work, and what's complete bullshit. And that way, we won't be accused of being charlatans or whatever else. And I think that's my last slide. So thank you, Coleman Griffith. Thank you, AASP. This has been a really fantastic honor for me to do this, and thanks, that's all.